Morning, Suncoast.
Take this fainted heart, take these tainted heads, and wash me in your love, and come like grace again. Come on, church. Even when my strength is lost, well, I'll praise you. And even when I have no song, well, I'll praise you. And even when it's hard to find the words louder than I'll sing your praise, I will only sing your praise. I will only sing your praise. I will only sing your praise. And take this mountain away, and take these ocean deep, hold me through the trial, and come like hope again. Even when the fight seems lost, well, I'll praise you. And even when it hurts like hurt, oh, I'll praise you. And even when it makes no sense to sing louder than I'll sing, I will only sing your praise. I will only sing your praise. I will only sing your praise. Let's sing this out this morning. And my heart burns only for you. And you were all I want. And my soul waits only for you. And I will sing till the morning has come. Come on. My heart burns only for you. 'Cause you were all I want. And my soul waits only for you. And I will sing till the miracle comes. Yeah. And I will only sing your praise. sing your praise. Well, I will only sing your praise.
Fortune lies beyond the stars. Those dazzling heights too vast to climb. I got so high to fall so far, but I found heaven as love swept through my heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Bird falling, spirit soaring. I touch the sky when my knees hit the treasure waits within your scars. This gift of freedom, cold goodbye. The world and sold my heart. You traded heaven to have me again. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. A bird falling, spirit soaring. I touched the sky when my knees hit the afar, built up 1,000 walls, try to hide away. I searched to find my soul, a journey far from home, lost in a life I'd made. And I've been round in circles. for the moment. I know I ran so far, was acting kinda crazy, coming up with empty. Felt like I'd lost my heart. Now I found a love that is clearer than the deep blue skies. It's true, you were right there. I can see it in the days gone by. I see you in the days gone by. Your promise never left my side. I know sometimes I tried to give up, still you caught me when I fell from high. And I see you in the days gone by. You took my fragile fate and didn't hesitate. Your love in every scar, passion with no restraints, held back the darkest days. So now my life is yours. You got me when I'm broken, you're with me when I'm hopeless. I know you're never far. Your mercy has no ending, it perseveres unfailing. You'll always have my heart. Now I found a love that is clearer than the deep blue skies. It's true, you were right there. I can see it in the days gone by. I see you in the days gone by. Your promise never left my side. I know sometimes I tried to give up, till you caught me when I fell from high. I see you in the days gone by. See you in the days gone by. See you in the days gone by. And I need you every day, 'cause I see you in the days gone by. Your promise never left my side. I know sometimes I tried to give up, till you caught me when I fell from high. I see you in the days gone by.
Got one more for you this morning. I'm walking around these walls. I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. Sing this out. Your promise still stands, and great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, and this is my confidence. You never failed me yet. Enjoy the service.
Good morning, Suncoast.
Good morning.
My name is Ricardo. I'm one of the worship leaders here at Suncoast, and this is my lovely wife, Laura.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lora Aviles. Ricardo and I have been married almost 9 years, and we actually met here at Suncoast on stage. I'm Pastor Larry's oldest kid as well, and usually Ricardo and I are up here every week on stage, but not usually up here. We're usually back there behind instruments and different microphones, so this is a little different for us today, right?
So bear with us a little bit. But Pastor Larry asked us to come on stage. For those of you who don't know, my wife Laura is a mental health professional. She's been practicing for about 15 years, and she has her own counseling center here on campus, Lifehouse Counseling, and he thought it was a perfect way for us to come on stage and end this series on gratitude. And so we're excited to talk with you guys. So in week one, Pastor Larry and Pastor Brett spoke on gratitude and introduced this series and talked about gratitude for God, for life, and for community. And then in week two, Pastor Larry kind of talked about just implementing practical ways to implement gratitude in our daily lives. And so today we're going to be talking to you about the correlation between happiness and gratitude and kind of the psychology behind gratitude, and that's why Laura's up here. So we're excited to speak with you guys this morning, and we're going to get started.
All right.
So Laura, what does gratitude mean to you?
Well, gratitude is one of my favorite topics, just in general. And I think that we can all agree, we all have an understanding that gratitude and being thankful is important and it's effective, especially this time of year. But we're going to dig a little bit more into not just saying how thankful we are, but actually allowing ourselves to feel the emotion of being thankful, which is a really important correlation. And also to talk about not just having grateful experiences in our life, but living a grateful life. So that's what we're going to talk about today a little bit more.
So in your experience, obviously, you've been practicing for a while, and you've had a lot of different clients come in and out of your doors. And what are some of your experiences when it comes to gratitude? Because I'm sure people are not coming to you when they're happy. You know, there's usually something going on in their life that
Right.
is kind of affecting them in a negative way. So what are some of your experiences with some of that stuff?
Well, you know, one of the things I really believe is that we all have a lot of layers to us. And there's a lot of layers that only a lot of people see, you know, but we all have painful experiences that are happening in our life, no matter what. You know, there's different levels of pain, but I feel like as a whole, most human beings are struggling with something at any given time. But a lot of times people don't see that. So part of my job is to get to kind of see those different layers. And people come, like you said, when they're not full of happiness usually. They're struggling with something, with anxiety, depression, anger, a loss, financial issues, just all different kinds of things. And when they're talking to me, kind of the main message that I usually receive is, I'm struggling and I'm not happy in this, but I don't want to feel this way. I want to feel better. I think that's usually a pretty common theme. And so my role can kind of be to come alongside of them and to gently point out areas that, what are you thankful for? What's the silver lining here? Maybe if there's no silver lining, is there anything in your life that you can be thankful for and grateful for? And to kind of sit in that place, which can balance out the tragedy and the darkness and the pain that's going on so that they don't just have to sit here, that they can kind of have more of a balance and help them with that. And what's really cool is after we work on that for a while together, at first it takes a lot of nudging and reminding and kind of guiding from me. And then eventually it's the most fulfilling part of my job when they start doing it on their own and they just kind of let me know this is what I was dealing with and this is how I was thinking about it and balancing it out, and that's really exciting for me.
So just to be clear, you're not you're not talking about like gratitude and being grateful for negative, like major negative experience, because nobody
Sure.
should be like, nobody's going to be grateful for a loss of a loved one,
Right.
or grateful for a bad health diagnosis or anything like that.
Right. So not necessarily being thankful for every single thing that happens, even tragedies. I mean, that's too much to ask. But I think to be working on being thankful for other things despite the tragedies of our life that are happening is what's really important.
So a lot of this sounds like it's just implementing a new discipline. I like to think I'm a pretty disciplined person. I very much focused on health and nutrition and getting discipline in that, but implementing that in my life was a massive struggle. It was just not the easiest to like want to wake up and go to the gym and focus on eating healthier and all of that.
I remember those days.
Yeah. So
I was the more motivated one, and now all of a sudden you have surpassed me in all of that.
But gratitude is a discipline.
Yeah.
It's something that kind of goes against our natural choice.
It takes a lot of intentionality and, doing it on purpose. And it takes a little more effort, just like any discipline when you first started out, like you were saying. It doesn't just become second nature overnight. It takes work at first.
Sure. And evolutionarily speaking, it's not something that just comes naturally, correct?
Right. But there's, as with any discipline, there are huge benefits of living this lifestyle of gratitude. And the first one is increased health, physical health. There's studies that are showing that people are actually improving their physical health with living in this grateful state. There's also studies showing that there's decreased depression, increased happiness, more empathy, especially in situations where we could feel like we want to have revenge or kind of be more assertive and aggressive, that we're having more empathetic responses. Also, less social comparison, which I feel like is a really, really interesting piece.
Can you expand on that just a little bit? What is social comparison?
Social comparison is something that I feel like most of us deal with. So we can be very happy and feel good about where we live, what we drive, what our hair looks like that day, what our job is going, our career, our family, all of that kind of stuff. We can feel maybe really good about that starting out in a day, and then all of a sudden we see someone else beside us that looks a little different or has something a little less or more, and then all of a sudden it diminishes and deflates what we just felt as far as being grateful and being thankful for what we have. And that can happen all of the time.
Sure.
I see that a lot.
And I can imagine social media it only intensifies that social comparison.
Completely exacerbates it. Because we're inundated with, we're on our smartphones, we're on our tablets, whatever, and we're constantly looking at other people's lives and pictures and all of this different stuff. And so it's very hard not to compare ourselves to other people.
Well, I mean, they can pinpoint kind of the genesis of social media, coming on our smartphones, and then you see this graph of just increase in depression, anxiety, all kind of stemming from that point in which social media became more prevalent in our society.
Right.
And I mean, it makes sense, but you're getting this fake reality a lot of times with social media of people only presenting their highlight reel. And there's this great quote: you're comparing your behind the scenes to their highlight reel.
Right.
And
again, those different layers.
Exactly.
That most of us only see the first layer of people.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's difficult. But what I love is the idea of this thankfulness that helps us to do that less, which makes sense, because if we're really in a state of gratitude and just being really mindful of the things that we're appreciative of in our lives, we're not paying as close attention to other people. And if we do see someone that has something nice, maybe we can even be more apt to be happy for them instead of feeling like it's a slight on us.
Well, I mean, I think I know I want this for my life. I know you want this, and I'm sure most of you in this room really can agree that we all have the singular goal of wanting to be happy. And it sounds like living this different perspective of gratitude and happiness have this amazing correlation.
Yeah, I mean, our brains were not designed to make us happy. Evolutionarily speaking, our brains were really helpful to make us hypervigilant and for survival,
We were running away from predators and other tribes a long time ago. So it was definitely, we needed that kind of sensory to,
Right.
to be unaware, like be aware.
Came in real handy for our ancestors. But now it's not as important, but it is going against our natural, I think, ability to not worry and fret, but to be very intentional to maintain this life of gratitude. It takes effort at first, for sure.
In preparing for this talk today, I tried my best to just like dive as deep as I could into this idea of gratitude, and I came across this quote, and they're going to put it on the screen, but I thought it went perfectly with what we're talking about. It says, "It is not happiness that makes us grateful. It is gratefulness that makes us happy." And we kind of have this perception of, the happiness needs to come first before I can be grateful, and it really should be the other way around. And I love this concept because we all know people that, they have, from the outside looking in, they have everything in life that you would think they would need to be happy. And then you have kind of the opposite of that. You have somebody that you look at and you're like, man, they have every reason to be an unhappy person, and they still find happiness in their life. What is the difference between those two people?
That's a good question, and I think it's a lot of mindset and intentionality to, think and really focus our thoughts on in a certain way. So it is interesting though, because you see people that you think, oh, they have every reason to be happy. They don't have anything bad in their lives, and yet if you really knew them, they're completely miserable. So.
Well, changing topics here, just kind of diving a little deeper into this is, I'm a very goal-oriented person, and I think you are too.
Well, I appreciate you putting me in that category. But we
I
both
think
know you're more of that than I am.
Okay, maybe a little bit more. I'm kind of the dreamer in the relationship, and
Yes.
you're the one that comes along and just pops my dream bubble
All the
a
time.
lot. It just kind of grounds me a little bit.
It's my job.
But no, you do a really good job. I think what it is I have these goals in life, and I come up with these big dreams, and you kind of come alongside me and just say, just remind me, I'm really happy with where we are in life. I'm really happy with our life, and just kind of this
Finding that balance between contentment, with what we have and where we are. But I appreciate the fact that you do push me to have dreams and goals for the future and possible changes, which I don't like to think about,
Sure.
So.
But I think it's really important. I have a lot of conversations with friends that are entrepreneurial or athletes or something like that these people that are hyper-focused on changing their reality from where they are to this larger goal. And a lot of times when they have this struggle of we have this conversation of, oh, I'm not exactly where I want to be in life, or I haven't achieved this goal, or anything like that, I try to remind them, it's important to stop and look at where you are in life and look kind of behind you as far as how far you've come, because you're a different person from where you are a year ago, 5 years or years ago. You have all this experience now. You have all this life and to be thankful for. And yes, you want to continue to reach and continually get better at what you're doing, but also being thankful for a lot of this kind of comes out of failure. If I'm not where I want to be, or if I have a massive failure in my life, I'm just oh no, this is terrible. But shifting your perspective on almost not living in that failure, but also just being appreciative of that failure, appreciative of that learning lesson. I messed up, I failed, but now I have this learning lesson that I wouldn't have been able to receive either way, and I'm grateful for it. So it's this mind shift.
Yeah, it's a reframe.
Exactly.
That reframing the negative can be extremely helpful. And sometimes there is a moment and a time that you can find silver lining out of things that don't go the way you wanted it to, and to be thankful for those failures. But then again, it's sometimes there's tragedy and pain in our lives that we don't have to be thankful for that, but we can be intentionally thankful for other things, despite what's going on in our lives. And I think that's a really important piece.
I love that.
And back to the correlation between happiness and gratitude, this is not just an idea that people have believed for generations. This is actually being proved more and more scientifically at this point. We're learning more and more about the brain, and they're able to do brain scans and to really study it at a different level. And the research is showing that when you're in a state of gratefulness, that dopamine and serotonin are released into your brain, which are the two neurotransmitters that make us feel joy and happiness, which is the same neurotransmitters that antidepressant medications boost. So that's pretty amazing and powerful that is actually, changing and rewiring our brain when we're in this state of gratitude. And that's how powerful it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really, really good point as far as that's so cool with being able to like actually read those scans and see those things. It's amazing. And I love the idea of not just having like these individual moments of gratitude. Obviously, we just came out of Thanksgiving, so like usually Thanksgiving is this great time that we are like, I'm just so thankful for all these positive things in life. But living this life of gratitude that is implemented in our daily lives.
Yeah. And we have a lot of comforts in our life right now. There's a lot of things that we take for granted because we're so used to them, just comforts in life. And sometimes when they're stripped away or we don't have them for whatever reason, we're uncomfortable. And then when we get them back, we have this newfound glorious appreciation for them.
Well, I have a great story for that. In 2004, I was a teenager and lived in Port Charlotte. And that summer, we had Hurricane Charlie pass through our town, and it was definitely something I'll never forget. It was an experience that completely changed my reality, especially the weeks following Hurricane Charlie. We had this massively devastating storm hit our town. My dad's house had severe damage to it, and thankfully everybody that we knew was okay. But in the weeks after, we had no electricity, no running water. Food was very scarce, especially within those first few days, just before the people that were coming to help and volunteer were there. And it was just this massive shift in our reality that I remember it was a few weeks after the storm had hit. I was working on the roof. I was a teenager. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I was like messing with some soffit that had come out. And I just remember hearing screaming inside the house, and it was my mom, and she was just yelling because the electricity had come back on. And I just remember rushing down and going into the house and like turning on the light switch and just looking at the light and just being, oh my goodness, like this is amazing. And just going over to the air conditioner, turning it on and just feeling that cold air on our face. And it took those common things that we take for granted. It took a massive storm to just like come and strip all those things away for us to like really appreciate those things. And it's about that like those micro moments in our day. We are so blessed in this country to not have to worry about electricity for the most part, not have to worry about running water. We have the confidence every time we go to a light switch that it's going to turn on. But it wasn't until that was stripped away. So when we're talking about gratitude, yes, there are those big moments, those macro moments that are in our life that we're thankful for. But what we're talking about is this life of gratitude is being appreciative and grateful for the micro moments in our life. In preparing for this, I was listening to a guy speak, and he was telling this story about a friend of his that had Parkinson's. And he was at the stage that he was just bedridden and unable to walk, unable to do anything in his life. And, he was going and visiting him, and he asked him a question. He's like, if you had just one day of just healthy living again, you had your health back, what would you do? And, this guy's thinking like in his mind, like, oh man, he would probably go to Paris and, bungee jump and climb Mount Kilimanjaro, all these amazing experiences in life. And it surprised him what he responded with. He said, I'd probably wake up and go watch the sunrise and then go back, have breakfast with my wife, and then take my dog for a walk and come back and probably sit down with my kids and watch a movie, just relax a little bit in the afternoon, and then go take my wife for dinner, and then we just go for a nice, night stroll, nice walk. And it caught this guy off guard because it was just so incredibly mundane, this day that he would experience. But what he realized is what we're talking about is life is about these micro moments of gratitude and gratefulness. Outside, yes, the macro moments are great. These big events that happen in our life that we're just like, wow, this is amazing. But honing in on those micro moments can literally shift your mindset of even as something as silly as going over and turning on a light switch. It's that micro moment of thankfulness and gratitude that completely changes your life.
And that's what we're talking about, these micro moments that add up in a day that actually, when all those tiny little moments add up, it's a lot of the time during the day. And that's this idea of living gratefully instead of just having grateful experiences. And, 2020 has been a really interesting year. And I feel like, I know even for me, I've been really challenged to find good in some really inconvenient circumstances. And I know a lot of people have had it way worse than anything that I've gone through. But it has been challenging, and it's easy to get caught up in, we've lost this, we've lost community, we have to wear a mask, we can't do this, we can't gather, all these different things. It's easy to kind of just live there, and you have to kind of intentionally think, okay, so what are the perks of working from home? What are the beautiful moments that we get to spend so much more time with, the kids and them being off school last spring and everything, and all those different things. It's been, I think, a lot of work for all of us to get to that place,
100%.
But it's so effective.
So now that we've talked about all this, I'm sure we're all your clients now. How do we implement this in a practical way that we can move forward?
Well, I have a couple of ideas that I brought today. And so the first one is a gratitude journal. I think this is one of the tried and true methods of just writing down every day, whether it be right before you go to bed at night or in the morning or a time during the day when you're just reflecting, to write down 3 things that you're thankful for. It does not have to be huge, doesn't have to be super tiny, but it can even just be, what made me smile today? What was an interaction that I had with someone that just really made my heart happy? Like, it can be those moments too.
Yeah. What about for those of us that don't necessarily like writing things in a journal? Are there other more creative ways that we could implement something like that?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I forget sometimes that not everyone thinks the way I do. I'm very linear, organized, detailed, logical brained, so I like black and white, everything in a very neat order, organized, bullet points, whatever type list. But I have some clients, and I always encourage people, make it your own, do something that really speaks to you. And I have one that's really an amazing artist. And what she's done is she's bought canvases about this size, and she uses paint, and she paints different words and different sizes of these words and kind of makes these collages with paint on things that she's thankful for, positive thoughts, and they're beautiful. She can hang them up on her wall and be reminded of all of these things, so that's an amazing way to do it. Another one of my clients, when I encouraged her to journal one week, she came back the following week and said, I decided to try poetry. I've never really written it before, but I decided to do poetry instead of journaling. And she has tapped into this gift. She is amazing at poetry. She has written hundreds of poems in the last 2 years since I've known her. And they are so good. And she has a way of kind of working through some of the painful experiences in her life with the poems. And then what I love is at the bottom, usually paragraph or line, she brings in some sort of hope or positivity or something that she's thankful for at the end of it as she's kind of worked through all of the painful stuff. So it's really a beautiful way. So there's no right or wrong way to do this gratitude journal, just whatever works, for you and what you enjoy, I think is the most important thing.
That's amazing. I like that.
Another idea I brought is that to express appreciation for the people around us, whether it be a stranger, someone that you kind of know, or your closest family and friends. I think it's really important to be watching for things and be aware of people that we're appreciating, who they are, the role they have in our life, all of that, and to tell them. And that could be verbally, it could be a text message, an email. I mean, God forbid you actually write a card and mail it. There's a lot of different ways that we can show appreciation to the people in our lives. And not only does that fill us, because it makes us aware of this feeling of gratitude, but it makes someone else's day as well. So it's a win-win on that. And then thirdly, I think it's really important to have prayer and reflection and thanking God for all of the good things in our life and giving him a lot of the glory for that, and just being very aware of his presence in our life. And I think when we do that, we tap into something so much bigger than ourselves, and that can be so extremely powerful as well.
I think that's a really good point, and that's what Pastor Larry and Pastor Brett spoke in week 1 of this series, is just this appreciation and just identification of God's presence. Because a lot of times when we are going through something that's tough or negative, we feel like we're alone. And we sing that song here again, and I know that Pastor Larry spoke about that. It's these words that we feel like we're forsaken, but the beauty is that he is always there. Like he's never forsaken us. And what prayer and meditation really does is it allows us to identify like, oh, you're here. You're here, and I have so many things to be thankful for. And like with those micro moments of thankfulness and gratitude, it's honing in on like something that, this like specific moment in our life that we're thankful for. And I think that's really, really amazing.
Yeah.
So Lora, I'm very thankful for you.
I'm so thankful
And
for you.
thank you for coming on stage and sharing your knowledge in this area. So let me pray with you guys, and then I'll have a closing story. Father, as we're on the stage and with our community, we just thank you for this opportunity and this blessing to be able to talk about gratitude. And the thing that you have called us to do is to be grateful and thankful for everything in our life. And I think it's a really great reminder, Lord, and I thank you for Pastor Larry and this church, and I thank you for Lora and her experience and her knowledge and this amazing ideas that she brought today. And we thank you and we praise you. Amen. So in closing, I have this really sweet story. Our oldest daughter, Layton, she turned 7 on Friday, or Saturday. I'm getting in trouble. So on Saturday, she turned 7, which is really even still hard to grasp that she's 7 years old already. But she was born on Thanksgiving Day 7 years ago, so we always call her our turkey baby. And so we kind of gave her a couple options for what she wanted to do this year. With COVID, we were a little leery of actually having a party, but we wanted to, respect what she wanted to do for her birthday. So we gave her an option. We said, we can either have a birthday and invite some of your friends, or we can take you on a trip to Orlando and go to Disney on your birthday. And right away, she was like, I want to go to Disney. I want to stay in a hotel. So we basically let her lead the trip. We just basically did whatever she wanted to do. So we went up on Friday, and she got to choose everything. She wanted to swim, what she wanted to eat. Ice cream, everything. And we just really tried to make it the trip about her. And then the next morning we went to Disney. I don't know if you guys have been to Disney, anybody here as of recently. It's a little different. We have you have to wear a mask the whole day. And so we're wearing masks even outside, and then we're waiting in longer lines than normal because they have us all spaced apart. And so we're going through this day at Disney, and Laura and I are just kind of getting annoyed a little bit, just like a little frustrated. It's hot, we're having to wear these masks, and the girls were having a blast, but we were starting to complain a little bit, ironically enough. We were preparing for a talk on gratitude, and we're starting to complain. And then all of a sudden, it's 1 o'clock, and we haven't eaten yet, and let you in on a little secret, Laura gets very hangry. So she gets a little grumpy when she's not hungry, or when she's hungry. So we decided we got to get something to eat. We got to get mom in a better mood. And so we sat down at the table. We started eating. We're all feeling a little better. And Laura and I are just kind of having a conversation as far as like, man, I can't believe we got to wear this mask. I wish we just didn't have to, I understand if we wear it inside, but I wish we didn't have to wear it outside because we're just so hot and we're sweating, and these lines are super long. I wish there was a way to get more of the lines inside so we're not seeing, and just a lot of complaining on our end. And Layton's just sitting there eating, and she just looks up and just kind of off into the distance and is just like, I love my life. And we're just
so humbled
by our 7-year-old, because here we are preparing for a talk on gratitude. Just trying to identify these little things to be grateful for, and we get a life lesson from our 7-year-old that she was wearing the mask just like we were. She was in the heat just like we were, and she was having to deal with the lines. But despite that, she was just the happiest kid, and it was a really amazing reminder that in those moments, just to have that childlike appreciation for life. And that's what Pastor Larry talked about in week 1. It's just this appreciation for breath at the very micro, like the smallest thing you can be appreciative for is just life and having breath in your lungs. And I think that's a really great reminder from Layton for all of us. Yes. So thank you so much for being here with us this morning. It's been an honor to speak with you, and thank you, Laura. and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.